Paul Manwaring had the privilege of, I've heard Paul many times teaching, and then had the chance to spend some time with him last year when Julie and I were out at Bethel, and he was very gracious to take a couple hours to spend with us. But he is a man of integrity, of humility, of passion. He's extremely gifted in a lot of ways, but he is a man of God, and we feel honored and thrilled to have him with us this morning. So with no further ado, I want you to stand on your feet and welcome Paul Manwaring as he comes up.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, good morning. It really is an honor to be here. It's not hard to give up 2 hours for people like your leaders. When Julie comes back, I have a word for her. I feel like I have a word for you, church. I don't have a personal word for you. I feel like I have more of a church word, and I really don't know what it exactly will mean, but I feel like the Lord says, follow the spider. And there's something going on. If you follow the spider, you'll see the web emerge as you follow the spider. And it may be related to that church plant. I don't know. I have a feeling there's something going on, and you'll see things to do with the spider and the spider's web, and you'll kill the flies. And He's the Lord of the flies, and you're going to kill the flies by following the spider. It's a little weird, but. It was great to be with Graham as well. I just love being around that guy. And then Mr. J. Riddle. Man, that guy is good. You should see him 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning in Bethel. I don't know anybody who can worship like he does at 8 o'clock in the morning. Nobody like him. But I only have one offense with Jeremy Riddle, and that is that he once closed worship and sang a cappella. That's wrong. Like, he wasn't on the worship team. He was like one of us going up to close worship, and he sang a cappella. That's not right. That's just not right for people like me who can't sing. And there's a few products out on the book table. This is a book I wrote. I had prostate cancer in 2008, and I got healed by a surgeon. And surgery is not a second-class healing. Absolutely believe that. A couple of you believe that. We're going to see something incredible happen as the natural marries the supernatural, as men and women who are gifted in a natural skill marry it with the supernatural, and we're going to see great increase. So I passionately do believe that surgeons learn how to do what they do because they're made in the image of God and they receive the wisdom of God. And if they then walk in both the natural and the supernatural, we are going to see great advancement. But this is my journey. It's called Kisses from a Good God. He really did kiss me every day for a 3-month period. I'm sure He kisses me every day. It's just I was really aware of it during that 3-month period. He taught me so much. I have this kind of thought in my head. I was at war for 3 months. I wish I could learn to live like I did when I was at war when I'm at peace. Because if I could live like that, who knows what I would do, you know. And there's a number of chapters in here that I think are important. One is about a first-class healing. I do believe that's important. I spoke on shame a little bit on Friday night, and there's a chapter in here about shame. There's a chapter in here about re-signing. I don't believe that resignation is part of the kingdom, and we need to re-sign, some of us. And I found that as I came out of cancer that I'd lost the top 10, 20% of my dreams and vision, and I needed to re-sign for the fullness of what God had for my life. And a spirit of resignation can creep over the church and over people when they've been through traumatic stuff. This is a weird way of doing it, and I hope this doesn't in any way embarrass somebody. I feel like there might be somebody here who's recently been divorced who needs some encouragement from the goodness of God. Is there anyone here? That would be hard to stand up for. And I might be way off base, which is okay. Nobody has. Well, that's good. I just felt like there was something about re-signing for them and getting their hope back. But all right, well, that's okay. Anyone got an anniversary today? That's you. There you go. There you go. Well, you were nearly in the room, so there you go. Well, bless you. Well, may you re-sign today to the fullness of what God has for you, in Jesus' name. Julie, I saw you in a room. You're in a room. There were boys in the room as well as girls. I want to make that, I think that's important. and you were discussing fashion. You were discussing jewelry and clothing and hair, and it was the beginning of I don't know whether it's your fashion line or somebody else's that you're inspiring, and you're releasing something from your heritage, from your ancestry into a fashion line, and you're marrying it with what you believe the kingdom should look like. And the Lord's going to gather a group of people or some scenario or something like this around you, and you'll find yourself in a place that you never dreamed you would be. But it's actually one of the things that you were born to do, is to inspire young fashion designers and stuff like that. There's particularly things to do with jewelries in there as well, stuff like that. It's something like, McCartney's daughter. I feel like it's something to do with, one of the McCartney's daughters is Stella. She's a fashion designer. I feel like it's something similar to that. That was the word I got. That's how I started it anyway. So we'll see what happens with that. All right. Well, it's an honor to be here. You have an amazing house, amazing leaders. There are a few places that I've ever been, I felt more at home. I just did. Sue and I, we just felt at home. It's like, this is just one of those places you could just sit back in Chris's office and hang out and forget to come in and preach. It's easy. You are very welcoming, and I guess I really do like university towns or cities. I guess I just do. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but I just do. I've spent a lot of my life working around young people, and so I just do. I find it stimulating and encouraging. I'm still young myself, so it's okay. And what I want to share with you today, the conference title was Fullness. Being full is a event. Fullness is a condition. It's how you carry on living. It's like you can have a hopeless moment, but hopelessness is a condition. That's the opposite. The goal is we live in fullness. We don't just want to get full. You get full after a good meal, but fullness is an ongoing condition. And I'd thought of a couple of messages that I wasn't quite sure where I was going to go when I got here, and I didn't end up going where I thought I was going to go on Friday, but that's been okay. But I want to talk to you. And the picture there really, for me, confirmed where I felt like I should go. And I call this message, Temples Create Rivers. And I want to just talk a little bit. There's a wonderful quote of, it's either Dostoevsky or Solzhenitsyn. I can't remember which of the two, but it actually doesn't really matter. They're both geniuses and said such great things. And which one of those said, beauty is the battlefield on which God and Satan war for the soul of man. Beauty is the battlefield on which God and Satan war for the soul of man. And, I believe that beauty is one of the key themes of Scripture and of our lives, but we've lost some of it. We've left some of it behind somewhere. When Lucifer fell, and I'm going to go to an unusual passage. We're going to go to Ezekiel 28 and look at Lucifer, which is perhaps not what you typically preach on a Sunday morning, but trust me, it will be encouraging. When Lucifer fell, when man fell, so did beauty. And the purpose of beauty fell. I believe that beauty is a gift from God to us, given to us to point man to God. And that beauty really is a key part of our lives, but many of us have not been given the opportunity to discover beauty. I also passionately believe that it's time for the church, for the bride to be beautiful again, to be seen as being beautiful. Now, I try not to say this in a critical way, and you've done a fantastic job with this building, but things have changed in the last 100 or 200 years, and I'm a European as well. Which means that, I have a history of going to church in buildings that when you walk in, you look up. They were designed for that. The great cathedrals of Europe were designed for us to walk in and look up. The tragedy, of course, is that those cathedrals are no longer filled with worship and praise and with the power of God. And and for me, there's a need for us to draw these two extremes together, if you like. Sort of, we've got buildings in industrial estates that aren't quite as beautiful, and we've got beautiful buildings. The ones on the industrial estates are filled with passionate worship and the power of God, and the ones that are beautiful on the inside have ended up being empty, and it's just time that we got our act together and drew the whole thing together. And I love art in church. I just adore it, you know. I would happily have a dozen artists painting behind me while I preach. And you'd think, wouldn't that be distracting? It'd be no. It's actually, it's really helpful. When I sit in an old cathedral, I look around and it actually stimulates me and enables me to be listening more and be more aware of the majesty, the awe, the greatness of our God while somebody is also preaching. So I believe there's something happening, and I'll call it this. I believe there's a renaissance coming. I passionately believe it, and I'm going to run through a few things. You know, temples, you all know the story in Ezekiel 47, don't you? There's a river, yeah? There's a river, it dribbles out from under the door of the temple, and it gets deeper and deeper. It gets deeper, I would say. The further it flows from the temple, the deeper it gets. It's actually it's the picture of the government of heaven. It's meant to get deeper the further away from the temple it flows. The problem is that for years we've built rivers that get deeper the closer to headquarters they flow. It's called bureaucracy. And it's never meant to be that way. It's never meant to have been about the church. It's meant to have been about a church that has a river that flows from it, that gets deeper the further from the temple that it flows. And that we've probably spent a lot of time, and I'm sure most of you have heard a message somewhere along the lines about the river. About the river, it gets deeper, you go in, you're ankle deep, you're knee deep, you're waist deep, you're swimming. There's fish in the river, there's trees in the river, there's people jumping in. We've heard the river. I actually listened to a very painful message on the river once, which was 3 hours long. And I had to close the message afterwards. It was a painful experience. So we've all heard some river messages. But have you ever thought about what kind of temple a river flows from? Where does that river flow from? You can't read the Bible, I don't think, without realizing that there are some rivers in the Bible. I'm going to give you 4 key rivers that are in the Bible. There's a river in a garden. It's the river that flows from the garden. There's 3 rivers that flow from the garden. The perfect created garden, a river flows from it. I would suggest to you that garden's the ultimate temple. There is no greater temple than that garden. It is absolutely perfect, and God lives there. It's a temple, and temples create rivers. There's a temple in Ezekiel, and out of that temple flows a river. I'm going to describe to you something to do with that temple in a few minutes. But there's a temple there, and a river flows from the temple. And there's a river in the book of Revelation. There's a throne and a river that flows from a throne. So there's a river from a garden, a river from a temple, a river from a throne, and one other. And that is the river that flows from you, because out of your belly flows rivers of living waters. There's a garden, there's a temple, there's a body, there's a throne. And they all create rivers. So what kind of temples create rivers? See, temples create rivers, and rivers, I'm sure there's some people in here that are studying geography, history, and stuff like that in some form or another. And you will know, if you was to study anthropology, civilization, you will understand something. Rivers attract cities. Where do we build cities? By rivers. And even if we build them on the coast, we'll typically build them where the river meets the ocean. So temples create rivers, rivers attract cities. And you have a river flowing from your belly. Because Jesus said, out of your bellies shall flow rivers. You see, that river flows as a result of you being full. Because come to me, you're thirsty. We ask for drink. He keeps on filling us up, as it were. And out of us flow rivers. So what kind of temples create rivers? Because if you're a temple and a river flows from you and rivers attract cities, what kind of temple are you? Now, just briefly, I don't really have time to go into this piece. I personally think, this is a lens through which I view, I believe that the temple is meant to be the seat of the Renaissance that causes a river, which is revival, that attracts cities, which is about reformation. I don't believe they were ever meant to be separated. A renaissance is meant to create a revival, and a revival is meant to create a reformation, and it's meant to carry on. It's never meant to stop. It's not meant to be, oh, here's a little pocket of revival, here's a pocket of reformation, here's a pocket of renaissance. I believe they're all meant to flow together. The Renaissance was 12th to 14th century. The Reformation was 500 years ago in 2017. And we've got pockets of revival here and there. Why not have them all together? Isn't that where we're heading? And you know what Renaissance means? It actually translates slightly better in Italian than it does in French. And my pronunciation might be messed because I don't know whether it's Renaissance or Renaissance anymore. Because I can't remember where I am and how you pronounce it wherever you are. But whichever one it is, it means ultimately be born again. It's rebirth, new birth, be born again. So, what kind of temples create rivers? Ezekiel 28. I won't read it all, but it's a stunning passage. Most theologians consider that this is a passage describing Lucifer. And let me just, I'll pick a few verses out in the early stages, which are amazing. Ezekiel 28, verse 3, behold, you are wiser than Daniel. There is no secret that is a match for you. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Move on further, and we get a phrase about, therefore, behold, this is negative, but in the negative, there's an incredible truth. Therefore, behold, I will bring strangers upon you, the most ruthless of the nations, and they will draw their swords against the beauty of your wisdom. What an incredible statement. The beauty of your wisdom. But of course, the tragedy is that Lucifer lost it. And he was created beautiful, and his beauty was meant to point man to God, but he perverted that, and he drew all the attraction to himself. And we read in Romans that we ended up worshiping the created instead of the creator, which is, I believe, the description of the fall of Lucifer. And man, of course, fell because the fruit in the garden was beautiful, desirous to the eye. And instead of that beauty being something that led us to God, it led us away from God. And so Lucifer took the beauty that was given to him to point man to God and used it to point to himself. And therefore I believe that when Lucifer fell, when man fell, so did beauty. Listen to this description. You had the seal of perfection. You were full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. You were in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was your covering. The ruby, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the lapis lazuli, the turquoise, the emerald, the gold. The workmanship of your settings and sockets was in you on the day that you were created. I want to suggest this to you. That when we were born again, when we became a new creation, we were given access to that again. That is our new creation. That was the original template for mankind to follow, to emulate, to copy. A beauty, a stunning beauty that would point men to God, but Satan lost it. What's fascinating about this passage for me is that the phrase, you had the seal of perfection, verse 12, if you look it up, because we're all Greek and Hebrew scholars these days because of the iPad, that we can look up a word in an instant and we can appear cleverer than we really are. But the seal of perfection is a word that appears twice in the Bible. And that word is spelled T-O-K-N-I-Y-T in Hebrew, tokniet. I think you pronounce it. As I'm sticking to it, I have the microphone, unless there's a genius here. But here's what it means. It means perfection, a plan, a pattern. It indicates completeness in every way. Wisdom, beauty, environment, culture, blessedness, anointed of God. That word appears one other place. In Ezekiel 43, describing the temple out of which a river flows. Full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. I think it's a stunning picture. It's the picture of how we're meant to live. It's a picture of what the temple is meant to look like. Imagine if we were full of wisdom and perfect in beauty, what river would flow from here? What river would flow from this house? and flow down the streets of Norman and into the university, into the coffee shops, into the campuses, into the homes, into the businesses. If out of this place there was a renaissance and we grabbed it again and we said, let's be beautiful and let's be wise. Arising out of our fullness. See the picture there of this word tokniet, which then goes on to describe the temple, is stunning, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. But we lost sight of some of this, I think. We've lost sight of beauty. Psalm 27, one thing I ask, that I may seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, and there behold your beauty. What is this thing called beauty? What is it? The problem with beauty is that culturally in the world, we have made it shallow, temporary, and sexual. When it should be deep, eternal, and point us to God. And because of that, we have problems to do with beauty. I believe it's time to redefine it. To redefine beauty. What is beauty? And my phrase, I say it all the time, what is beautiful to you? What makes your heart beat faster? What are you passionate about? Because here's the truth. He gave it to you. He gave you a piece of Him. He put it inside of you. And when your heart beats with that which is beautiful to you, it is beating what is beautiful to Him. And you know those photographic software programs you buy where you put your 1,000,000 family photographs in and it creates a mosaic? You know, you dump your 1,000,000 photographs of you and your family and the beach and all of that stuff that you've been doing. Yeah, you know those ones? And you press a button, up pops the Mona Lisa. Or something similar. It's always the Mona Lisa, it seems to me. I think that's God. I think God takes all of us. He takes a little photograph of what's beautiful to us. 7.3 billion of us on the planet. He takes one shot of each of us. He puts it into the software program of heaven and he presses a button and up pops a picture of God. Because you carry a piece of Him. You carry a piece of what's beautiful to Him. And it's time for us to rediscover beauty. Do you know the Greek word for beauty, once again, gained from my extensive knowledge of how to use an iPad? The Greek word is aura, H-O-R-A, from which we get hour, H-O-U-R. The Greeks cannot separate time from beauty. This is going to encourage some of you that are over 21. When you think your best years are fading and your opportunities of being on the billboard for Hollywood or for Estee Lauder are over, and you are thinking, I'm no longer beautiful, you will discover something in this one definition. Beauty must be attached to time. And the Greek's definition of beauty is being in one's finest hour, which means your best days are yet to come. Your finest hour is yet to come. That beauty is not temporary, it's not shallow, but it is eternal, it is deep, and it was given to us to point us to God. It's time to be beautiful again. It's time for the bride to be beautiful. The picture of Esther, who spends her 6 months with the bitter herbs and 6 months with the beautiful herbs so that she becomes beautiful, is a picture of the bride of Christ prepared to be presented to the kings of the earth so that the kings of the earth will take notice of her beauty and, I believe, her wisdom. And your beauty is yet to be found. Your beauty is in your finest hour, and it is why the most beautiful event of the whole of eternity is a moment on a cross, which was, to the naked eye, the most brutal moment, but to heaven, the most beautiful, for it was Jesus in His finest hour. And that, for us guys, will change the way we sing songs, because I struggle singing Jesus, You're Beautiful, because it feels weird. But when you attach it to time and you realize that beauty is not temporary, it's not shallow, it's not surface, it's not sexual, but it is deep and it is eternal, you will see the beauty of the cross and you will see the beauty of Jesus like you've never seen it before. What's beautiful to you? What makes your heart beat faster? You see, I believe it's an assignment for us. We've had an agricultural age. We've had an industrial age. And we're something like 40 to 50 years into an information age. But I have a feeling, and even if I'm wrong, I'm just going to keep prophesying it, that the information age is waning and a new age is arising, and it's the creative age. It's a creative age. I think people are done with information. Now, my little theory, based on a personal passion, is this. If you walk into any of the craft coffee shops that are rising up around the world, you will meet some particular people. Typically, there'll be at least one hipster behind the bar. He or she will be there. But there will also be a genius behind the bar who studied nuclear physics or something like that, who can tell you stuff that you don't understand, but somehow he's found himself in a coffee shop. And his passion is excellence, beauty, and experience. Isn't it true? Wouldn't it be amazing if people came to church for the same thing? Wouldn't it be amazing if they found excellence, experience, and beauty in the house of God? I was recently in a coffee shop, and they had a Strada coffee machine at the front. A La Marzocca Strada coffee machine. I'm like, you are so close to beauty, excellence, and experience. You do not know what spirit you are of, guys. You are about to birth something that could spread around the world. I'm being partly funny, but actually it's not totally funny. I think something's happening. You see, we can get all the information that we want, but finding excellence, finding experience, and finding beauty. It's the picture of Ezekiel 28. It's the picture of Ezekiel 43. A river flows out of a temple that is full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. It's time to be beautiful again. It's time for the temple to be beautiful again. It's time for the temple to be full of wisdom. And Bill Johnson, our senior leader at Bethel, he talks about wisdom, and he says that wisdom is integrity, excellence, and creativity. Wisdom was there at creation. Read Proverbs. Wisdom was there at creation. Wisdom's not about what you know. Wisdom takes territory. Wisdom has identity. She shouts in the streets. She has identity. She takes territory. That's what wisdom does. And wisdom includes creativity and includes integrity. Beauty. What's beautiful to you? It's time for us to be beautiful again. And you young men and women that are studying at college, I challenge you to do this. Don't do what you know to do unless it's beautiful to you. Don't be forced into a box to study something just because you're good at it. Make sure that you love it too. Make sure that you're passionate, because I believe that this world is waiting for a bride that rises up, that loves God and knows what is beautiful, and their heart beats with it. Because I come from a generation that was more trained, do what you're good at. Just do it. Design a career out of what you're good at. If you're good at math, do it because you're good at it. And then we end up having midlife crises and discovering something and having a dream. I think we can do better than that. I think we can start by realizing that we have permission to discover what's beautiful to us, because a piece of that is the heart of God. What's beautiful to you? Psalm 27, that phrase, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, I don't think that means live in church. I think that means live in the constant awareness of His presence, and when you do that, you keep on seeing what's beautiful. And then you ask a question, how do I take what is beautiful to me and use it to bring glory to your name? We have a friend at Bethel, Kelly Clark. She is the #1 snowboarder in the world, as I understand it. I think she probably drove her parents crazy when she was young, because she was either on a snowboard or a skateboard. I don't know the whole story, but I'm pretty sure there's some truth in that. But today, she found the thing that's beautiful to her, and she stands on podiums all over the world, while Jesus Culture music blares out as she snowboards down and hits that 500-meter, whatever it's called, thingy. She's the best, the pipe, because she won the 2002 gold medal for the half pipe. She does stuff that I don't think any human being should really be able to do on a piece of wood. But she stands on a podium with a snowboard that declares her Jesus. She's had snowboards that declare 1 Corinthians 13. She's had snowboards that declare, I am my beloved's and he is mine. she stands there with that music blaring out, and she's pointing to him, and she's found the thing that's beautiful to her, and she's doing and bringing glory to him. And I believe it's a key that we discover what is beautiful to us. My definition of beauty is this: beauty is an attraction of the soul that invites to intimacy, that always demands a question. Guys, you understand this. You saw a beautiful woman, an attraction to the soul that invites to intimacy. Hold the intimacy for a moment and ask the question, will you marry me? It's an age-old principle. Beauty. Discovering what's beautiful, but too many of us, we've been raised in an absence of love or a presence of harm, and so we've learned to perform to get attention or to avoid punishment instead of being given permission to stop still long enough and discover what is beautiful to us. And the older I get, I think the more I discover what's beautiful to me. And I really do love standing over my coffee machine and pulling the perfect shot and steaming the perfect milk and trying as best I can to develop my latte art. I'm serious. I love to do it. I just love to do it. There's something about it. And I really do love food, and I love cooking, and there is a glory in food, and I can prove it to you. There is a glory in food. There really is. Look what's happening in the world today. Look at the TV chefs. Look at the love of food. Look at what's happening. Wouldn't it be a tragedy if we didn't have brothers and sisters who love Jesus in that industry? Wouldn't it be a tragedy if we left men and women who don't know God to dominate that industry of food, to be the Michelin star holders around the world? Wouldn't it be a tragedy if we didn't raise up a generation and give them permission to go study food, do food, cook food, serve food, love food, and use it to bring glory to God? What a tragedy it would be, in my opinion. There is a glory in food. It's the glory of God to hide things, the glory of kings to search it out. Once there was nothing on this planet that was made by man. He hid it all for us to discover. But somehow we've left it, haven't we? We've left it over there, and we've let unbelieving geniuses made in the image of God conquer this world, conquer the technological age, and we've stood back somehow having a microphone strapped to my ear or a title of a prophet or an elder or something like that more important. What a tragedy that is. It's time for the church to be the place. It's meant to be the incubator of the creative ideas. It's meant to be the incubator of beauty and wisdom. It's meant to be the place where it's nurtured and it's developed, and people are raised up and they're sent out into the corners of our high streets and the corners of our cities and influence for the glory of God. What's beautiful to you? What makes your heart beat faster? What do you love? What do you love to do? What outcomes do you love? One of the major things I believe that has been put on my life is I give people permission to be them. Give you permission to be you. Be the best doctor, best teacher, the best makeup artist, the best fashion designer, the best cinematographer. Go be the best at that and let your heart beat faster and use it to bring glory to God. I think we have two sons, Luke and James. James right now is doing the final rehearsals of a kid from every age group in the city of Windsor performing Joseph. I'm so proud. We're so proud of what he does doing that and his love of music and stirring up young men. We watched him. He directed Les Mis in a school. That's insanity. And he changed the lives of boys and girls by a musical. And we have a son who was one of the two that filmed the latest We Will Not Be Shaken Bethel music. I can't tell you. I couldn't tell you the pride in me that he's doing that. Filming We Will Not Be Shaken, that people will watch around the world. He just knows how to use a camera. Like, I'm proud of that. What makes your heart beat faster? What do you love? What are you passionate about? Now, I'm going to close in just a moment by giving you an assignment. When I want to tell you a story, I'm just hitting some high points of a message because there's obviously you'll understand a ton in here. But there's a story. 1,000 years ago, Prince Vladimir the Greek, the pagan monarch of Kiev, was looking for a new religion to unify the Russian people. Toward this end, Prince Vladimir sent out envoys to investigate the great faiths from the neighboring worlds. When the delegations returned, they gave the prince their report. Some had discovered religions that were dour and austere. I need your accent for the dour word. You Scots know how to say that so much better than the rest of us. Others encountered faiths that were abstract and theoretical, but the envoys who had investigated Christianity in the Byzantine capital of Constantinople reported finding a faith characterized by such transcendent beauty that they did not know if they were in heaven or on earth. Prince Vladimir adopted Christianity as the new faith for the Russian people. What impressed the envoys and persuaded Prince Vladimir to embrace Christianity was not its apologetics or ethics, but its aesthetics, its beauty. Thus we might say that it was beauty that brought salvation to the Russian people. And it was Dostoevsky out of that who coined the phrase, beauty will save the world. You can walk out of here and have an argument about truth. People don't know what truth is anymore. You can have an argument about goodness, about moral truth, and people don't have a plumb line anymore. But you can go out of here and you can display beauty that points to a creator, and people will discover truth and morality out of beauty. They will. They'll find it in music. They'll find it in dance. They'll find it in many, many ways. It's time to be beautiful again. A world that's struggling to find a moral conscience. A world that is struggling to find rational truth. Is it possible that we could show them that through beauty? Through being beautiful? Through dance? Through things like Les Mis that demonstrates one of the most powerful messages of all time. The power of grace. The power of love. What's beautiful to you? It's my challenge for you this morning to discover what's beautiful to you. Some of you were raised with an absence of love and you learned to perform because you got attention. And some of you were raised with a presence of fear and you learned to perform to avoid punishment. And whatever your age, I give you permission today. I challenge you, I encourage you. Go on a journey, discover what is beautiful to you. You know, in the presence, when I stand in the presence, I don't see blue angels. I get ideas. That's what's meant to happen in the presence. In the presence, we realize that God loves the stuff that we do with our hands and our minds. He loves that stuff. He's been waiting for us. You see, we've left Bill Gates and Richard Branson over there, made in the image of God, unencumbered by religion, to run free and discover and dream and conquer. And meanwhile, us in the church with 4 times what they have, made in the image of God, filled with the Spirit, having the mind of Christ, Christ in us, the hope of glory. We've been afraid of made in the image. And we've wrapped it up in religion, and we've handcuffed a generation and not given them permission to go and run free. And it's time for us to do that. And one of the keys is to discover what's beautiful to you, what makes your heart beat faster. It's the key to fullness. Because that's the picture in Ezekiel, the greatest picture of fullness there will ever be. And it's the model of what we were created to be like. And we were made creative in the image of God. We were given access to something that would point mankind to God. And the tragedy is that if you're creative and you don't know God, then your work becomes an idol and you become a god. And it wasn't meant for that. I think it's why there's so many tragedies in the world of arts and creativity. Because men and women find themselves famous and their work is an idol and they become a god, but they don't know the God they're meant to point to. And they get themselves into a swirl and all they can do is look for love in all the wrong places, and some of them end up killing themselves. And it breaks my heart to see the Keith Ledgers and the Robin Williams and the Whitney Houstons. Sometime there's going to be a generation that know how to help, who know what to do. Maybe that generation is you. And maybe that generation is you because you discover what is beautiful to you and you find yourself alongside those people and you know what beauty is, but you know who He is. What's beautiful to you. I want to invite you to stand. We're going to minister, but I want to minister this one thing. I challenge you this. Go buy a journal. Go buy a cheap journal or a good journal, depending what's beautiful to you. Or just your iPad will work. And go on a 28 journey of what's beautiful to you. What do you love? What makes your heart beat faster? What are you passionate about? What do you love? What do you love to do? What outcomes do you love? Go on. I dare you. Study what's beautiful to you. What makes your heart beat faster? You don't need to be on your face in worship. Study it. Walking through the store, walking through the mall, going on a walk, sitting at home. What colors do you love? What sport do you love? What taste do you love? What do you love? Because the beauty he gave to you, he gave for a reason, to point mankind to God. And it's time for us to be beautiful. Father, I ask that you would make us beautiful again. And this would truly become a temple of beauty and wisdom in the city of Norman, Oklahoma. It will become so attractive that it's dangerous. That people come here from all over the world to understand beauty, to meet young men and women who've discovered what is beautiful to them and who are creating a river that flows out that attracts a city. Father, I ask for a renaissance, a revival, and a reformation to overlap for the first time ever in human history. And it begins with you discovering what is beautiful to you. I think there's a ministry team available if you want to come up. And there's people here, I'm sorry, I'm pushing the time just on the edge there. If you need prayer this morning, come and receive prayer. Specifically, if you have cancer, come and get prayer. If you have arthritis, come and get prayer. If you have infertility, come and get prayer. Come up and receive prayer. They'll pray for anything. But we have a God who heals. Don't come here this morning. If you have pain in your body of any kind, come and receive prayer right now. And if you're going, go buy yourself that cheap journal and study what's beautiful to you. And I believe it will change your life. And it will set you on course for your destiny. If you need prayer now, just come up and receive prayer. If you have cancer, I'd love to pray for you. If any of you have a child with Down syndrome, I have an assignment to pray for Down syndrome. I've seen breakthrough. I've seen symptoms go. I've seen a pharyngeal reflex healed. I've seen speech restored. I've seen development, social development develop. You have a child with Down syndrome, I would love to pray for you or your child and declare that over you. Come and receive prayer.